Cause God.
It's on. At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer because this is the source from which we draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. It's always an honor to be able to come before our Portland listening audience to give you some wisdom. When I'm talking about wisdom, I'm talking about that which is the application of knowledge. And the blessing is you have elders and you have elderlies. Today we have an elder, and he is known as Broussard. Bruce been around a long time. He ran for the map. We done went here, there, and everywhere together here in Portland, Oregon. Met him when I first got here. The last couple of months during the Black History Month and some other times, we supposed to have got together, but other people was not available. Bruce is always available to talk about the struggle of us as a people. So right now, I want you to hear from him. He has some subject matters that he want to put forth before us, and we need to hear it, because the elder is not the elderly. We are the elderlies, and we're listening to the elder. So right now, I'd like to bring to you my brother and my friend, Brother Broussard.
What an honor. What an honor, and all due respect, the fact to be able to communicate for those brothers and sisters up in the New York area, back east. Because as you note, there's enough is not being said about who we are if you happen to be black, African, colored, Negro. I use the other word too because it's still being used.
Right.
I mean, but the fact of the matter is, we are somebody. We basically brought the wealth to this country, and I can go into that history aspect of it. But it's such a pleasure knowing this brother here in the Portland metropolitan area that keeps me, if you will, awake and aware of the fact that I exist, and that I've got folks in relationships all over the world, for that matter. And he gave me an opportunity to celebrate his birthday, Marcus Garvey, at one point in time. And we were able to educate a lot of the people here in this area, in the Portland metropolitan area, gave them an opportunity to understand what that was all about and where he was from and how he came from a so-called foreign nation into New York and tried to rehabilitate those folks there in Harlem, and did a heck of a job. And as time was go, he had a piece of real estate there that was determined to be identified as a black community. As a black community. Black African community. Okay? That's another issue there. But the fact of the matter is I had the opportunity to do that as a result of my brother here, and we shared it with the folks here in the Portland area. But I'm sharing it back to you, saying you still have a piece of real estate there.
Yes, sir.
And I know that real estate a lot of times is being they're trying to get it to change. They're trying to get you out. They're trying to gentrify you out. but it ain't gonna happen.
That's right.
You got to keep that real estate. In this particular country, if you don't identify with a piece of real estate, you're nothing.
That's right.
You're nothing. So again, I just want to let you know that you're there. You got a piece of real estate, and now the politics of that area is trying to change, but maintain it. Make sure you elect folks that understand what that real estate's all about. Sometimes they come in different colors. Okay? They're discussing it right now, trying to put it in another group. But as far as black African Americans, again, we going up another notch. Because some of us were born and raised here.
Mm-hmm.
And we are black Americans. And those black African Americans, we went through that. We said our fathers were from Africa, but in many ways, there were issues there. There were issues there that when this particular country, the USA, was put together. There was issues there among our people across the whole nation of Africa. There was a divide. And in many ways, where those tribes were divided and we had those wars, they would basically take some of the folks and basically they interacted, but they was still on the same real estate.
Yes, sir.
And then when this divide came through, there were entities saying, well, hey, look here. We need folks here to develop this country, America. And the form of government then was England.
That's right.
And in England, their thing was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They had a king and queen and this, that, and the other, but they had the king. And then they have, as they progress, and you start basically gathering a lot of their so-called subjects around the world. Mm-hmm. There was this unfound land, this newfound land called America. They said, we're going to go check this out. We want some of that point. Go get some gold, go whatever. Let's go take some things out of our area and put it over here and get more wealth. And they came here.
Yes, sir.
They came here. And when they came here, there was two areas that they wanted to crop. For cotton and tobacco. Okay? That was huge. And when they did that piece, a lot of the white slaves that they had in England, they said, well, we just send all those folks up and the prisoners and all that other stuff, just send them over there and let them do the work. And we'll send some supervisors, some princesses or whatever, to come down here and manage all this stuff. And they did for a while. And all of a sudden they said, well, dude, we're gonna get there. We got these folks, they don't want to pick up that cotton and that tobacco. Climate is too hot.
Yes, sir.
Sun's too much.
Yes, sir.
And from an economic standpoint, from that standpoint, England say, well, look, well, when we gonna go on and create some business up there and go down there where the climate is? Let's go to Africa. Pick up that person who they can relate to that weather condition, because they're trying to grow cotton. Let's just get down to business here.
But let me ask you a question.
Talk to me.
I want to ask you this question because it's very important. Because when I started school in the 50s,
yes,
elementary school,
yes,
this was before, because Martin Luther King didn't get killed until 1968.
That's right.
And he fought hard against civil rights.
Yes.
Because when we talk about civil rights, it says a non-political issue. It's not even an issue that you can carry before the United States.
That's right.
Because if we talk about civil rights, and which is a non-political issue, and really we need a human rights, but how will you address that issue to us as a people when we talking about we want civil rights so we can move as a people?
Well, see, like I said, the big thing is we forgot about that history. That's why I was breaking it down.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
we survived, and in fact, had the sun not been too hot, we wouldn't have been here.
My man.
And we wouldn't have owned a piece of real estate.
Yes, sir.
Those folks had real estate. They were looking for real estate. They were saying what's going to benefit us, and they had the capacity to go all over the world and pick up folks. They had no intentions of bringing people of our origin aspect of it. You got me? So these different kind of categories of classification, civil rights. No. I'm talking about who we were, where we came from, and how we came here.
Yes, sir.
And in many cases, just like Marcus Garvey, as I learned through your effort, when he went to New York to try to educate and bring those folks, now they're not just slaves from other tribes from Africa. They are our people. Okay? And Marcus Garvey put them under one tent. And he tried to put that together. Because he had Harlem there. Because that's where they housed most of the people.
That's right.
Picking up that cotton. They put them there.
That's right.
But as time went along, there were entities outside of that entity They say we can't. These folks are about to run our whole deal up. In fact, they made white slaves equal to them up in England, and those are the folks that basically say, well, gee whiz, they were accustomed to that form of life up in England. So they say, why can't we just do that over here?
Right.
And some of those supervisors of the king said, well, look here, why don't we just get together with our kind, and we're gonna form this, we're gonna develop this country.
That's right. Called
America. After they won the war. That's when the war hit. When that wall hit, and because the builders now were us, black, dark skinned. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And they said, well, we're going to use them to go on and build the rest of this country. And so all of a sudden, you know, after the Civil War, and that so-called Civil War, it was stated, in fact, before I go to that point, it was just like when Marcus Garvey was up there in New York developing and whatever. And after a while, it was a tribal deal there. They basically used blacks against blacks. Had Marcus been living today, it'd be a kingdom down there in New York. We'd own real estate, all that high rise, all the stuff you hear today.
That's right.
You get my point? But it's still there.
That's right.
It's still there. See? And so now, here we are sitting, getting back now to that Civil War. And during that particular time, remember, Abraham Lincoln, they had their elections among themselves. And during that particular time, it was white against white. And so at the end of the day, it got so bad, they said no blackface could get involved in the war. They said, no, this is just white folks fighting one another, yes, males.
Sir. Yes, sir.
But after a while, you have to be, well, the folks in the north, the northeast, the north aspect of it, there are two sides there, see? And some of them supervise on this side, some of them supervise, and say, we white. Well, so let's say, okay, fine, well, whoever win the war will be the president.
Okay.
And whoever don't win the war will be the vice president. See?
Okay.
See? So they hooked her up that way.
Okay.
But as they fight, people get greedy, right?
Yes, sir.
So it just so happened, Lincoln was in that point where they were part of that group. So he said, well, look, why don't we got all these black folks here, they're slaves. But they're men, they're manpower. Manpower. Bring them in. So we're gonna make them. So he basically said, well, let's get down there. Went down to them and said, well, look at that. What we're gonna do? We're gonna give you the right, i.e., to be citizens, to be part of us, of the whole glory that they were talking about. Okay. That's what happened.
Okay.
See, so you're gonna be just like us. And so, well, now by this time, them cats that were doing that fight, we said, well, you gonna bring these? Well, yeah, we're gonna bring those in, and we're gonna give them just the same rights. Because that's what we fight in the same war. We were trying to rights this, that, and that. They're going to be able to access the same situation that we got, that we were fighting for. And we're going to give them, and that's when that 40 acres and a mule and that kind of stuff came. Because them generals were all there. They were using them black folks. That's basically who told Lincoln, hey, yeah, but let's give them something. Because now, because they're sitting up there fighting this war like anybody else, the rest of them, and they're saying, well, how you get paid? Well, we get paid 40 acres and a mule.
Okay.
There's an acre in land.
Okay.
And the mule is the one is that tractor that cultivates this land. You know what I mean? That I can sell my crop, grow more cotton.
Yes, sir.
Grow more tobacco.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got me?
Yes, sir.
So that's really what happened. So I'm making that point, and so I'm saying that. So then as time goes, there was always a fight between the majority.
What you mean?
Well, my opinion is when they pretty well put this country together, it was all about white males and real estate.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
That's right.
There were no women involved. But in all due respect, African slaves were involved. So when they basically said, we're going to make you the same, that's what the next level. But realistically, now they were black Americans like white Americans. That's where that black and white came from. For the white males. And then you got the black males. The guy black. Well, we ain't gonna call them no African. We just gonna call them black males. But But see, but then Lincoln was the one that was putting that piece together, because he was saying they're going to be just like us. They're going to be just like us. Well, okay. Somebody said, well, okay, when you darker than me, well, okay. Well, what color you white? You're whiter and black. Yeah, okay. So now it's black and white. That was the term then, black and white. But then as time goes on, when Lincoln said, and then they tried to cut him off when they shot him. Mm-hmm. But it was too late then, because we were still there. And I'm giving you some examples about that stuff because it's very important. Because then, as time went on, blacks were already in government. When Lincoln, when they were in government, they were senators and congressmen. I mean, and then so these other sons of the original ones, not on the Lincoln side, the other ones, said, no, we can't do this kind of stuff. These folks gonna be running me out of the business. Yeah. But guess what? So that's always been here. That was part of our history book then, but they never taught it in the schools.
Okay.
They never taught it in the schools.
That's right.
It was there day one. So consequently, as time went, that history was not taught.
Let me ask you something, because you sharp, and I'm listening to you. Because of nationality.
Yes.
The reason why I mentioned that is because this girl, Kamala Harris, when she was running for the president of the United States,
yes,
she was calling herself black.
She wasn't black.
No, but the Trump said, man, one day she's this, and the next day she is that. So 1 minute she claimed to be this because her father is from Jamaica. When you mentioned Marcus Garvey.
And then India's the other side.
Yeah, her mother from the other side, but her father is from Jamaica.
Yeah.
And when you talk about Jamaica, you're talking about the slave trade.
Yep, that's right.
Because we are all of African descent.
That's right.
You know, so in reference to her, if she calls herself black now, is she out of the constitutional vote because she's not honoring her father?
Well, I remember now, India is big time here nowadays, They're world power. You got China, they always mention India.
That's right.
And they call it USA, right?
That's right.
And we don't have the numbers like it, but, okay, we're that way. So that's really what her identity was India.
Okay.
They wasn't pushing the Jamaica as much. If anything, Jamaica is kind of like Jamaicans. If you're Jamaican, it's part of the so-called illegals. They put them in that crowd.
That's right.
It's a fact.
That's right. That's right.
She didn't say she was that. But she did say she was India.
That's right.
If I recall,
yeah,
when she was appointed through the Biden administration and through the Democratic Party, they went around the system and got her to support her to be the president of the United States of the Democratic Party. The first thing she did when she stepped off the bus was say she was Indian.
That's right.
And then some of those other elected officials who were Indian, who elected office, thought it was a great thing. Said, we got an Indian person that's going to be running. What happened to the black? Mm-hmm. The black was the majority. But because of the lack of educating our folks from slavery to this country, and maintaining the definition of what the country was about black and white. They never broke up the word white and say Irish and all that. No, they said white. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you didn't identify with African, black. So consequently, the white history was in the history book from day one.
But if we're talking about reparation, because I hear a lot of people talking about reparation today, how can we ask for reparation? Who were we before the advent of slavery?
Well, like I said, before we were slavery, like I said, the country where we came from, it was all about manpower and economics.
Okay.
We were the engine.
Yes, sir.
We were the engine. Without the engines, the tractors, if you want to say it that way, tractors,
sir.
Folks that can do the work.
Yes, sir.
In that hot sun.
Yes, sir.
We wouldn't be here.
My man.
But the economics is the thing that drove it. So when they saw all that business about reparation and this and that and that. I don't go that way. I just go from the origin.
Yes, sir.
I'm talking about who came here first.
That's right.
It was the slaves of the whites and the slaves of the Africans. That's what it was all about. Let's do it. But that's our history. I don't get upset. That's the history.
That's right.
I remember that. But I also remember what Marcus Garvey was about. When you gave me that opportunity on his birthday to say a couple of words. When I did my little research. That's what he was doing. His parents.
That's right.
See? He was part of the whole.
That's right.
But when he went, he knew his history.
That's right.
Because he's well-to-do. He was living in the mayor's area up
right.
there. See,
that's right.
His dad. See, so his dad was kind of like a king. But the history he knew. He said, "I'm going down to the history of the slavery." And he came down here and he organized. And in all due respect, it was the people that got him out through the white. And all it was economics. Because all them high rises and this, that, and this, that was all ghetto land. Even right now, up in the Harlem area, white folks want to go back to those nice looking apartments down there. And they clean them streets and throw them out. But we're still there.
That's right.
You can't throw anybody out. See,
right.
New York is New York.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So that's a history. So the key is that now it's about. Now we understand what that power base is all about. It's about election. And in some cases, New York is unique for us. In fact, if New York wasn't around,
Empire State.
we couldn't exist. Not in Portland area.
That's right.
Yeah, there's probably only 2 blacks that I know in Portland. You and me, males. No, but I mean, on a side note, I'm just saying.
Yes, sir.
But the fact of the matter is, it's not in our history book.
That's right.
You don't hear that in your show like this.
That's
and with
right.
me. And had you not given me that research, I wouldn't have known. And just like we started out with Harris.
That's right.
As far as I was concerned, if they were really, it was economics again too. I'm thinking it was by design. Because she was not the right person to run. She didn't have the background.
That's right. That's right.
Just strictly background.
That's right.
Now, if you want to really talk about black folks, you got a woman that was living in kind of an area in the sun, in California, Maxine Waters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Maxine would have been a heck of a candidate, president.
That's right. That's right.
And all these white folks respected her. See, because she's sitting in a position of power, and she was from California.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like a mecca for black folks. They had East LA and this, they still there in many ways. You see what I'm saying? So, but that history, but we still have access. And then when you start looking around the entities that are here, you see basketball and football and boxing. What do you see? Black faces.
That's right.
And white folks and black folks, they everything cool. I mean, you hear things like billionaires, black folks, white folks. They got more whites because they own more billionaires, right? But they got black millionaires too. And black millionaires talking the same thing that white millionaires are talking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So the name of the game is that, due respect, when I look at this election process.
That's right. That's right.
I said, and you got the man upstairs too that checks us out.
That's right.
So I got to make some changes here. Because in all due respect, we've gone beyond that. See, so when I look at Trump, he wasn't elected by just the whites. I look at it just like the Lincoln deal and the grays and the blues. You see what I'm saying? He was on this other side. Because as I recall, when he first ran for office, and had black folks in a very prominent role in his race. Very prominent. He wasn't from the Al Sharpton's regime. Al had his own thing. Al said, I'm going on TV.
That's right.
I think I can still remember he went down to Harlem, probably had some neck bones down there with Trump.
That's right.
Because his dad was in real estate, and his dad had low-income housing, called slumlord or whatever.
Yes, sir.
So he grew up under that deal.
Yes, sir.
He grew up out of fighting all this, that, and the other. That's why he was kind of like incorrigible. He didn't go through the regular college piece. Dad had to send him off to academy school. You know what I'm saying? See, but bringing that up to date. So when I saw that race, the way it was, there was a divide. Same thing when the country started, right?
That's right.
As it was a Republican. No, he was white. So the Republican divided half and half. But he got elected.
That's right.
He got elected. And he spent 4 years. And he was a developer. So he'd been running all over the world, building an apartment, whatever. But they have every right. You got so many billionaires, you got so many millionaires, you got so many, right down the line. But he came into power. And one of the first things he did was put a black woman in his cabinet. Put her right in the White House.
That's right.
There she was. I read her book. There she was. Respectful, too, by the way. And she was coming out almost like Garvey. Coming out trying to tell black folks, we are somebody. Trump said, go do what you want to do. We are somebody. Right. And who ran out of town?
Right.
Black folks. And so she basically went out and found herself a minister up in California. And she's there now. I look at her just like I look at Garvey.
Yes, sir.
See, so but the fact of the matter, this is history in many ways.
But one more question while we're on that same note.
Talk to me.
Now we are talking because we just had Black History Month.
Oh, yes.
So-called Black History Month. Now those that's with the NAACP, etc.
Yeah.
What part are they playing now in what we trying to do or what you're teaching?
Well,
what is the NAACP doing now? Because they talking about the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. But we black.
Oh, really?
No, I'm not black, but I'm just saying we as a people call ourselves black. But the NAACP say they colored. So how will we deal with this? That's why I'm asking you for your wisdom.
Well, as I said before,
my man,
it was the black people that got rid of Garvey.
My man.
No, yeah, black, and they called themselves colored.
You hear what Trump just did, though? They exonerated him. Recently, they just said on the news the beef that they had with Marcus Garvey, he's free now, even though he's dead.
But that's what I'm saying. He recognizes way back when he was a kid running around in New York.
That's right. That's right.
And the people knew that.
Okay.
But he was a billionaire for his daddy.
That's right.
So he said, I'm tired of being in these houses. I'm going to deal with this. I know some of these folks here. And when you look at his cabinet, he got some black folks there. Since we're jumping back and forth, because I'm going to get back to that other point that you asked me about the NAACP. But the bottom line, let's jump. But anyway, when he started putting his cabinet together, who do you think housing is one of the biggest problems we have in this country, right? Who do you think he made his housing chief? A black man.
That's right.
Okay, what was the other issue that you just got through talking about the whole issue with the NAACP and this, that, and the other? He went to them first. What did he do? The National Civil Rights Committee chairperson sits on his major staff. It's a black man.
My man.
He's a black man. Very outspoken, very sharp. Lawyer. He's civil rights lawyer. He's the man. Now, he's a black man. And that's what he did. He put him there. And a lot of blacks didn't like that. And then what's the first convention person that they had on the NAACP convention? Who was running that piece? The colored folks. Sure, there's black folks in the audience because we don't know.
Yes, sir.
That's why we're doing what you're doing. We're
Yes,
doing
sir.
right now.
Yes, sir.
Trying to educate some folks. The person who basically ran that whole group was Miss Harris, running for president. Where do you think that $1 billion that she spent trying to run for office, where some of that money went?
That's right.
Because they were trying to put on a show. A lot of that money went down to the NAACP. And if you notice, they spent a lot of time propping her up.
That's right.
And the issue, she has an issue. Because she got to get propped up to try to run for governor of the state of California. Which I don't think she's going to be able to do anyway. She spent over $1 billion running for president. $1 billion. Gave Oprah $1 million. It's just like it's Kappa.
Wow.
Gave a few other brothers some monies. People got money. They say, well, where's the money? So indirectly, they knew. They basically joined. Because my old saying has always said, when you have this issue where we're having problems trying to figure out how we going to eat and this, that, and the other, and whatever, and everything's going to go down and this, that, and the other. They said, well, go out and buy a bunch of gold. And I'm sitting there saying, well, knocking my door. I'm not going, hey, I can't eat no gold.
That's right.
You better give me some eggs.
That's right. That's right.
You hear what that talking about, right?
That's
Got some
right.
eggs, some greens, and some ham hocks, and whatever. You see what I'm saying? So the point, so the point I'm making, I'm not trying to be anti who we are, but let's get that divide out of the way. It's almost like with the Trump piece. They tried twice to blow him up, do him up.
That's right.
And when you talk about Black History Month, the Black History Month I saw was that, and the Black History Month I saw in the NAACP were two different entities. They were propping up Harris,
Wow.
propping her up to run for governor. Because the old saying a lot of times in our community is that if you don't get the okay from the black, you can't win no office.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of the ones that they identify, they're getting grants.
That's right. That's right.
See what I'm saying? But they're doing it. But this is the way the world works. So I'm saying that. Well, yeah. So when the Black History Month came, what did Trump do? He waited till the last minute to see whether or not they're going to recognize black people. That's the way I look at it. Now that's my opinion. Now when he had his, he went on TV,
Mm-hmm.
and he was recognizing Black History Month. And guess who was at Black History Month?
Mm-hmm.
He had Tiger Woods up there.
You heard about her girlfriend, his new girlfriend,
Yeah,
Trump's daughter.
yeah. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he had Tiger Woods up there.
I'm talking about Tiger
Yeah, right,
Woods
right,
now.
right, Tiger
but
Woods.
he's dating Trump's daughter.
I saw that.
Okay.
But I threw that up because the golfer, he's a golfer.
That's right.
I'm gonna give him respect. I'm gonna give him some respect. Hey man,
right.
keep on golfing.
That's right.
I want to feel good, happy.
That's right.
And you know the other group he had, recognizing black folks, was the King family. The daughters and sons were at his Black History Month thing.
Wow.
At the same time he had Tiger Woods there. He had them there. And you know who would not recognize the King family during Black History Month? Was at the NAACP convention. Give me a break.
Teach your brother.
Give me a break.
Teach man.
And how did he get shot? Same way. Because he represented the masses, the ministry. And he's jumping in another deal. You know what I'm saying? Well spoken. But so, excuse me. So again, I go back to Garvey. That's where I learned that piece. And Lincoln.
That's right.
And now Trump. He's recognizing me now. So I'm able to go above another level. And I always ask the question, why isn't more time spent on black Americans relating to Africa, to African Americans. They were not I'm not the same.
My man. That's right.
I'm a part. Garvey wasn't the same, he was in the same situation. So it's still economics. And I'm just saying, this is just me and who I am. You know, I'm only 87. I only been here a couple of days. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And I've run for office in this state.
I bear witness.
Over the years. Hey, just as a primary. I didn't want to sit in that seat.
Yes, sir.
I might have got shot at. So the key is that, and I'm not trying to be anti, you know, no, I know who I am. And so we need, now, we got here we are, we've had a school system, the largest school system in the state of Oregon is where black people live.
That's right.
The largest. And it always been called the black community. Black community? When I got here, I said, where's the black community? Said Northeast. I said, it stretches all over the place. I said, but everything else got districts. And legislative district. That's the way they separate the property up here. Legislative district. Every 10 years they do that piece. And after being here for a while, and knowing a little bit about what's going on and about who the folks are, yeah, we had a community of black people, but they didn't own no real estate. They couldn't even go down to the bank. You can get you a car, but you can't own no real estate. And if it wasn't for the war, the shipbuilding deal, and a few of them left here after they got through building the ship, they threw everybody out. And a few of them stayed, just so happened had a northeast address.
Yes, sir.
And they befriended, I think, with some Jewish people or whatever, that helped them get a piece of property in northeast Portland. But no one went to that, went and gave them an address. Till I came along. And when I was at the Portland Observer newspaper, had something in front of my name. I mean, that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Newspaper, relate to the community.
That's right.
So it just so happened, the governor of the state of Oregon at that time was a gentleman by the name of Vic Atiyeh. Has been a Republican governor since.
Yes, sir.
I happen to know Vic. I met him through the Oregon Voters Digest, so somebody gave me the rights to buy that. And it was kind of a Republican publication. So I ran over there. I told him about the same thing about the gerrymandering, when they do the gerrymandering piece. And
Gerrymandering piece?
Well, basically every 10 years, they divide the land.
That's right. That's right.
And I told him about my concerns. I said, there's no black community here.
I'm glad you said that, though. The reason why I'm asking that, because what I'm going to ask you, because you nowhere else in the country but Portland, Oregon, and what I'm getting ready to talk about, because we was talking about who the people were who told us that we had to be in the house by sundown law.
Yeah.
So who were these people, and they told us that, so what part do they play in this government?
Well, you got to remember one thing. A lot of the Confederacy, you know, they were living during the war, were living on the gray side. And a lot of them came here.
Yes, sir.
And when we had what, World War II?
Two.
And who was the head dude? It was a guy by the name of Hitler, right? But he had his own thing. But when he lost that war, what do you think a lot of them ran? They came here. To Oregon.
That's right.
They were white males.
So when did that law come down?
The law
sundown law that we had to be in the house before dark.
Well, that came out during that particular time. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's like anything else, you see. But they had the rights, if you will, and the opportunity to own real estate. So they're able to get into that situation, right? Be elected and this, that, and the other. And our history was never done that way. Our history wasn't spent on the Civil War from the standpoint of who actually won the war. Had Lincoln lived, we wouldn't be talking about this issue today.
That's right.
See what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to take anything from those soldiers that were fighting under the Hitler arm. They just lost the war, and they had to have white skin. Even that works today. And I put it this way: you got the Ukraine. In fact, I think I saw the other day. I was looking at the commission meeting, the new commission meeting. I think that's a Ukrainian flag that was on one of the commissioners. He had it on. He had it on his computer.
Wow.
Sticking up that loud and clear, and they going around the room, and he's the only one that had a flag, the Ukrainian flag. I think that was a Ukrainian flag. I was going to call it, but now I can tell city government. Maybe they can hear it. But I was going to call up the mayor, Keith Wilson, and say, man, what's he doing this flag? There's only one flag I know.
That's right.
That I fought and died for.
That's right.
That was American flag.
That's right.
And in all due respect, just since we talking about the war with this uniform piece, do you know I did the Vietnam War. You did the Vietnam War too. You know the first person that was killed in the Vietnam War?
Wow.
Was a young brother from New York. And they had his photo at the VA, wow. Portland, Oregon. And they recently took it down. A brother, young brother from New York. The first black, the first person. So when somebody started talking about, flags and this, that, no, man, this is mine. I paid for this.
That's right.
And when someone when you say, well, that World War II peace aspect of it, the prisoners were treated better than blacks that were fighting in that war. Now you go to France, they recognize that. They honor them right. Yeah, they honor folks. But here, but they part of the deal. They got the white skin. Like I said before, a white male and a black male. A white male because of majority. But now I'm saying there's no such thing. I mean, to a certain degree, a lot of the blacks, billionaires, blacks or whatever, them folks are just living just like they are. That's how that's your part.
That's right. So
I'm not trying to knock it. I might win the lotto tomorrow. And what are you gonna do? So it really bothered me about the NAACP to a certain degree, because the NAACP, I thought that was something was wrong with it as I looked at it, and it was going through the deal. I said, well, they were giving all recognition to all of these folks and whatever. The roots and turned to the next level. That's what King brought over, because he was the church.
That's right.
The next level.
That's right.
And they did not recognize the church in the NAACP. They recognized Harris.
Oh, okay.
She's trying to run for governor of California.
I heard.
And the competition she's got are the Mexicans. Because they're sitting up here trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this sanctuary city piece? See? I said, I'm still looking for mine.
That's right. That's right.
They gave them a piece of, they had the land.
That's right.
And they fought for the deal, but their own people sold it. That's why you got all those different names of California when you go on the streets and the areas and stuff. But so I'm saying things are changing, and I didn't see her when all that fire went out there in California.
That's right.
And then there was a black community there.
I remember.
And right in front with it, and they getting ready to spend the money to get it all cleaned up. And they're trying to get rid of that black community. And guess who jumped up to chair the board of the black community, for the black community? A brother. Kind of stopped them a bit, if you will. You know what I'm saying? But it was going to come up with regulations saying unless you can build about maybe a $5 or $10 million house, you can't build nothing in this area, or this burned area. But he stepped up there.
I like that.
And I'm talking about our boy who big time kingpin, a ball player, not Michael Jordan. Who was the other cat? Who was a basketball player with the LA Lakers?
Magic Johnson.
Magic Johnson. He's the chairman of the group to make sure they overlook. He's a billionaire.
That's right.
So he basically say, hey, I'm coming over here, make sure they keep that property. A lot of them didn't have any insurance.
That's right.
See, so to a certain degree, he's like Marcus Garvey. I bring Marcus in. That's what Marcus was doing. Marcus was kind of like a billionaire. He was acquaintance.
That's right.
But there were so many people. And New York is New York.
Yes, sir.
It is the point. It's like the point of this whole country. And you got all kinds of folks that are sitting in there. And when you go up in that New York area, that's a heavy piece. You know, you don't own no real estate. You got my point?
Right. That's right.
And I'm comparing it. Same thing with Trump. It just so happened he was living at the same time. It was there.
That's right.
He hadn't forgotten that. And I haven't forgotten what he did, about how he ran for office the first time and who the folks were.
That's right.
And so, and I'm saying to you, when I came here and I didn't see no names up there about no real estate, and hearing about all the history about this, that, and the other, and I'm sitting here saying, hey, we're living in prime property. And they came, every state in the union had a black community. And then they made legislation that says we're going to improve stuff, but you got to have but we're going to have give people, but they still kind of indirectly say we got a black community, but there ain't no black community unless you got the real estate. And that legislative district was the guideline. District 18. I want you to remember that. You know what?
Yes, sir.
District 18 was put together. Just so happened I was part of the group. But it was Vicar Teague that made it happen.
Okay.
Republican. But he was the governor. I recognize that. And he understood what I was saying, I think. So I went out there and did, and we got it. Who do you think was fighting the hardest to prevent it from happening? Black folks.
Yes, sir.
Okay? The ones that were getting paid, so to speak. We weren't picking up them government checks. We wasn't picking up no government checks beforehand. Cleaning the house and getting a little cash here. And,
yes, sir.
You know, getting the juke joint, which you got my point? Doing a little gambling, you know what I'm saying? And we were making it though, we were eating.
Yes, sir.
So when 18 came, all of a sudden, black folks got elected. And I'm just naming them to you, point blank. So you'll understand, I'm not just playing game. There would not have been a Margaret Carter. There would not have been an Abel Gordley. Okay? There would not have been what's the cat? He's a senator, Lou Frederick. He's still sitting in his spot. Okay.
Yes.
There would not have been, in fact, Loretta Smith, but basically it was Ron White that made another progressive piece. But without 18, because Ron White recognized the fact that he had to have some folks identified, black folks, and he's Jewish, and he said, hey, he didn't get a local leader. He went out and got Loretta. So 18, but then guess what happened after the 10 years? The same folks that was fighting, but Vicar Teague, he's gone now. I wasn't elected. I ran for governor, but I wasn't elected. And as a result, we don't have no 18 no more.
Wow.
So now you hear words about gentrification, reparation, all those words. Folks, wake up. Wake up.
Okay.
Just wake up. Wake up. Learn your history. And give respect to those who identify with that history.
That's right.
And I'm saying with the NAACP, I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP. And I'm not trying to be mad at them per se. It's just a few that ran with the money to give them. No. Recognize our, as you say, elders. Recognize the Marcus Garbers of the world.
That's right.
Recognize those individuals that gave us. Recognize Lincoln. Recognize Dr. King. He's part of our history.
That's right.
Because see, it was in the education system for black folks was at the church.
That's true. That's true.
At the church. And now we're struggling to keep our churches. And by not having no real estate, you can't buy our church. You have to rent a space. But with that district, then, excuse the French, the white community would recognize who we are and made sure they were there. The only black bank, and we had a black bank during that time with Booker.
Booker.
His name was Booker, Venerable Booker. Booker, but he was a brother, hustler. But he got the thing together, and he understood what banking was about. He created banks where folks could borrow money and this, that, and the other, buy the house and whatever. I bought some stock in that bank.
My man.
Marcus Garvey, right? That's like Marcus Garvey. He was like
Yes,
a Marcus
sir.
Garvey.
Yes, sir.
But then all of a sudden, and I can remember going to the county and saying, hey, you need to put some of that money in his bank so he can spend that interest just like the other banks. Banks never go broke, by the way.
Right.
Okay?
Right. That's right.
But the bottom line is that when Booker passed away, ain't black anymore. We don't have a place.
I like
And all them young brothers that are sitting out there and families that are sitting out there going towards the direction, it's kind of like saying, getting them out of Oregon. Go to Idaho or something, you know, Utah, anything like that, you know what I'm saying? No, home is here. And they're still talking about, well, we're gonna build a new complex here, downtown Portland, for the blacks. But you can't rent the apartment. Now, if they had said we're going to build a apartment complex up here, and we're going to go on and all here are the names of all the blacks that are going to move in. That's it. They didn't do that, did they?
No, sir.
But it ain't too late. But then at the same time, I was the same situation you provided me, just like I've got with the Voters Digest piece, trying to educate folks. And the facts are there. And you know, I've been running for years. Every 2 years I've been doing every 2 years. And then people say, "Well, gee whiz, you never won." I said, "I won every time I ran because I knew what happened to Lincoln.
That's right. Yes, sir.
I knew what happened to Martin.
Yes, sir.
I had something in front of my face.
Yes, sir. That's right.
And this time around, I said, well, I'm going to run with this new government. Because they're going to districtize. They're going to give me a piece of real estate. District number 2.
Okay.
I live in district number 2. But guess what happened? For some strange reason, there's not a black American in District 2 commissioners. All of them are different.
Yes, sir.
One's from India. One's a white male. And the other one they say is mixed. She just happened to be the chair. But the fact of the matter is, normally what I normally do would run for office, I would always run in the primary. And I always spent the last day to figure out who can take my place. And I couldn't, and that's why I ran. I already had my job. Former recruiter, I'm a communicator. I'm 24/7 out here.
Yes, sir.
So consequently, I said, I'm just looking. I'm just running just to see if somebody could. I can just here's the baton. Thank goodness you came to town. We developed a relationship. But this time around, I normally run for last day.
Yes, sir.
Went down to City Hall, picked up the form, and Had my check. Clerk gave me the form. Said, "How you doing, Mr. Broussard?" "Fine." Gave it this. Said, "Okay, fine. It is." All I did was, before I was concerned, I put my name down and my phone number.
Yes, sir.
Fill in all that red stuff. Anytime they already got a diary of me, they pretty well know every pimple in my butt, you know.
Yes, sir.
But the fact of the matter is that they did that piece, and then 3 days later, once they closed the deal, they called me up, and say, "We pull your name, your form out. You're not running. Give me a break." But you know, two things were happening. The good Lord was looking at two for me.
Yes, sir.
He said, "But you got the district, Bruce. You got the show. Now you got to work on that district now. You got a small area of real estate. And there are 3 people there. Maybe we can cut a segment out of that piece."
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
So long and short of it all is I'm here, and thank God you're here.
Yes, sir.
And hopefully the folks will look at that history. Our education system is packed with black folks in many ways. But first off, they're not being paid. And hopefully they'll stay there. And hopefully they'll start educating the kids here and give us our fair shot again. And then I would say to the governor of the state of Oregon, when that gerrymandering system comes out, let's carve the 18th back out to the state.
Okay.
Then we'll have a black community.
Well, what can NAACP do about that?
What?
What can the NAACP do?
I already told you.
Yeah, I'm listening again because they ain't doing nothing.
Well, I said that. I've had Mr. Posey here.
Yeah.
He's going to be doing a thing to educate the folks on a monthly basis, but it didn't work out for him. Now he's president for the second time around, and I would still encourage him to give me a call.
That's right.
And come on down here and try to get on the right track. But he's a hard-working guy. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't. First time around, fine, okay, fine. But I didn't want him to run that second time around. But hey, I'm here to help. That's what it's all about. Look like you got about another minute. I've taken up. Yeah, there you go. Here you go. Sorry about that.
Oh, we good, brother. Man, I appreciate you.
Okay.
Because we need to hear this stuff because it's not being talked about.
No, it's not.
And every time we get a chance to get together, you always talking about these subject matters.
Yeah.
But us as a people,
Yeah. Oh man.
you know, as you pull us.
Yeah.
Because I remember not too long ago when they had this program here, I seen you riding in your car.
Yep.
And they was talking. You had your uniform on, your veteran's uniform, and they still talking about you, brother. So I appreciate you, man. You're doing a great work.
I am left.
Huh?
I ain't left.
You ain't going nowhere.
You and I, man.
Yeah.
He's military too, by the way, folks. Too. He was a corpsman. You know them corpsmen. All my brothers know that.
Yeah, I did that in Vietnam, man.
Yeah, Vietnam, man. That's where I was there. I knew that corpsman.
Yes,
there we go,
sir.
man. There you go.
No,
That's it.
Okay, let me say the
Close
Moorish
it up.
American prayer. Let me close out with the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation. By night and by day, through his holy prophet, Jew Ali. Amen.
Amen.
But we thank you, Bruce, man.
Thank you,
You're
brother.
always a blessing.